All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're literally shifting into absolute high gear because we are breaking down one of the most powerful frameworks for personal transformation ever created, Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. Look, if you're tuning in, it means you're not just interested in coasting through life on autopilot. You want to take the wheel, right? You want deliberate control over the mental and emotional patterns that shape your reality. And in this explainer, we're going to look at exactly how you can engineer a definitive, massive shift in your beliefs and daily habits. So are you ready?
Okay, let's dive into this, because this really is the ultimate question, isn't it? We have all been there. The failed New Year's resolutions, the diet that lasts, 3 weeks tops? The brilliant business idea that completely stalls out in the planning phase. We set these massive, exciting goals, we get this huge rush of initial motivation, and then nothing. The momentum just fades. We slide right back into our old routines. Why does this happen universally to almost everyone? It's a massive pain point. But the answer absolutely isn't that you're lazy or incapable.
The absolute core premise of Robbins' framework is that you already have everything you need. Right now, you possess the internal resources to make major, lasting changes in your life this very second. The missing ingredient isn't your ability, and it's definitely not your talent. It's how you're directing your underlying beliefs and emotional patterns. Think about it like this. You're essentially driving a high-performance sports car in first gear and wondering why the engine is smoking. You're just using your internal machinery wrong.
Which brings us to part 1, the illusion of change.
You know, so often what we think of as making a change is actually just as putting on a comfortable illusion. We tell ourselves we're going to try something new, or we just kind of hope things will organically get better. But actually, scratch that. Hope is not a strategy. Hoping for a different outcome while maintaining the exact same internal state is an illusion that rarely, if ever, produces real progress. Genuine change only happens when you destroy that illusion and make a true decision. The word decision actually comes from the Latin word decidere, which literally means to cut off. So a real decision is not a wish, it's not a hope, it is a firm, immediate commitment that aggressively cuts off every single other possibility. If you're walking around saying, I'll try to get in shape or I'll try to start that project, you've already failed. I'll try is this weak mindset that gives you a built-in excuse to quit when things get hard. So I challenge you right now as we're talking, find one area of your life where you've been saying, I'll try, and commit to cutting off every other option. Decide.
Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is how it shifts everything. Part 2, standards over goals. Once you've actually made that real decision, how do you sustain it? This is where we have to pivot completely away from how society usually teaches us to operate, and it introduces the absolute core engine of behavior change. On one side, you've got goals. Goals are driven by hope. They're just things you'd like to achieve. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to save more money. I mean, that's nice, but it completely lacks leverage. On the flip side, we have standards. Standards are driven by necessity. They are the absolute baseline of what you will not accept from yourself under any circumstances. Raising your personal standards, deciding what you'll no longer tolerate in your life, your health, your relationships, that is what actually drives consistent behavior. Listen, people don't get their goals. People get their musts. They get their standards.
But, okay, here is the massive catch. You can set a new standard, sure, but if your internal wiring doesn't support it, you are going to self-sabotage. Your beliefs act as a powerful, invisible permission system. Deeply held, limiting beliefs will quietly cap your effort and your creativity long before you ever hit a real obstacle in the real world. If you demand a new standard of wealth for yourself, but you subconsciously believe you aren't smart enough to manage money, you won't even attempt the actions required to get there. Changing your beliefs isn't just some fluffy self-help exercise. It's a strict, non-negotiable prerequisite for behavior change.
All right, moving right along to part 3, master pain and pleasure.
So how do we actually overwrite those deep beliefs and force ourselves to meet our new standards? We have to understand the most primal forces of human nature, master pain and pleasure, and you literally master your life. Virtually all human action is ultimately driven by the desire to either avoid pain or gain pleasure. That is the whole shebang. If you have a bad habit, it's simply because your brain links more pleasure to doing it than pain to stopping. Robbins teaches this concept called neuroassociation, and here is your concrete 3-step action plan for it. First, identify the exact behavior you want to change. Second, forcefully and consciously link that old habit to massive, genuine, unbearable pain in your mind. Vividly visualize the worst possible outcome of continuing it. And third, link the new, empowering habit to massive, genuine pleasure. You have to consciously rewire your automatic emotional responses so that the good habit feels completely irresistible and the bad habit feels repulsive.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the absolute fastest ways to hack that emotional state, through your physical body. Look, if you're trying to do the heavy mental work of linking pain and pleasure while you're all slouched over and breathing shallowly, it is just not going to work. Your physiology directly dictates your psychology. Stand tall with your shoulders back to instantly project and actually feel confidence. Breathe deeply to flood your brain with oxygen, get that clarity. Move energetically. If you're feeling sluggish or negative, don't just sit there trying to think your way out of it. Stand up, clap your hands, change your physical posture. You can literally pull these physical levers to snap yourself out of a negative emotional state in a matter of seconds.
And as you take control of that physical state, you also got to train your mind to stop overreacting. Master your emotions by simply naming them. So often we feel a pang of frustration or, a wave of anxiety, and we just let it automatically sweep us away. We turn a passing feeling into this disastrous, catastrophic narrative. But these emotions are just signals. That's it. Acknowledge them. Say out loud, I'm feeling frustrated right now, and that's just a signal that my current approach isn't working. When you name the emotional pattern, you detach from it. You stop misinterpreting normal, everyday human signals as massive, life-altering problems.
Let's move to the final piece and see how this all builds together. Part 4. Build automatic daily rituals.
Okay, so you've made a real decision, you've raised your standards, you're managing your pain, pleasure, and your physical state. How do we lock this in for the rest of your life? We forge a compelling future. Because if you're only ever running away from the pain of your current situation, you are eventually going to run out of gas. You need a deeply appealing, vividly imagined, and emotionally compelling vision of where you're going. This is your anchor. Without a crystal clear picture of exactly where your consistent daily effort is leading you, the discipline required to maintain your new standards becomes incredibly heavy. But when that future vision is so real you can almost taste it, it magnetically pulls you through the difficult days.
And the vehicle that actually gets you to that compelling future isn't raw effort, it's your rituals. Let me be perfectly clear. Willpower is a depleting resource. Relying on raw willpower to make the right choice every single day? No way. That's going to inevitably lead to failure the second you get tired or stressed. True mastery means taking your key decisions and turning them into automatic, non-negotiable daily rituals. Think about it. You don't debate whether or not to brush your teeth every morning, it's just a ritual. You need to build your desired behaviors into near-automatic routines, so that executing your new, high standards requires absolutely zero internal debate.
Which brings us to the ultimate, uncompromising truth of this entire framework. A real decision isn't "I'll try." It's cutting off every other option until the outcome is certain. Take a hard look at your life right now. Stop trying. Stop hoping. Raise your standard, build the ritual, and make the decision that changes everything. So what are you going to decide to cut off today?